I failed him as a parent. He was not engaged, and that's on us. That's on all of us. I was an academic booster parent. I was the president of that booster. I opened Spanish Springs High School. For 2 years, I was the booster president. I was the band booster president for 2 years. I was very engaged in our schools from the time they were in kindergarten on through. So I've been in the school district for a very long time. My children are now 34, 33, 31, and 27. Would be 27. My fourth is no longer living. I only have 5 things to say. The first is regarding critical race theory. It's harmful to our children, our community, and our nation. It is racist on its face. It moves us back in time and assumes people cannot achieve based on the color of their skin. That's extremely harmful. Sex education has gone too far. Nothing more needs said on that at all. Achievement levels and graduation levels are very low in this state. Once again, I reference the above 2 points when I implore you to go back to the basics and teach reading, writing, arithmetic, and history. Not Common Core, not white math. You get my gist. Quit dumbing down our education system. You don't need to do it. Our children will rise to the occasion. Trust me, I did it with 4 of them. They were all brilliant. Even the one who dropped out, he was probably the smartest of all of them. He didn't see the point of continuing. We have too many bosses in our Washoe County School District. We're top heavy. We need more teachers. We don't have enough discipline in the classroom. I raised 4 boys. Nothing can be taught if you can't get their attention. Accountability for administrators, teachers, and students is imperative. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Before we call the next name, I'm just going to remind everyone that we always ask if you would please hold the applause so that we can hear the full statement of the person speaking. Thank you very much.
Roger Edwards.
Mr. Edwards? It doesn't seem as though he is here. We will continue on, and he will be able to address us later.
John Epolito.
Welcome, Mr. Epolito.
My name is John Epolito. I taught K-12 for 6 years. You can find over 1,000 of us on our Facebook page, Protect Nevada Children. At the next school board meeting, the IT department will present the 3rd technology dog and pony show that we at Protect Nevada Children have seen. I call it a dog and pony show because the most important items probably won't be covered. Things like, 1, most research shows, especially for younger children, devices do not improve student performance. Screens actually diminish student performance. This is one reason many .com executives severely limit their own children's use of screens and technology until high school. These devices are for our kids, not their kids. 2, how many students have become addicted to screens because the district starts giving them out in 2nd grade? The district knows, and some district parents have experienced firsthand, that screen addiction in their children may lead to drug addiction in their young adults. The district is aware, but refuses to tell parents screen addiction in children releases the same endorphins in the brain that drug addiction does in adults. 3, the My News 4 report, an app required by some Washoe County School District teachers, contributed to the suicide of a Bishop Minogue student. After the suicide, it took 9 months to get the app out of district schools. Vendors of free education apps are paid with student data. How will the profiles these vendors create on our children affect their futures? 5, how will the 4 student data breaches district students have been exposed to so far affect their future? The most recent student data breach about a month ago was the fault of the school district. Question: was Washoe County School District student data breached for the 5th time via the Microsoft data breach this week? 6, the inappropriate content up to and including pornography young children are being exposed to via Chrome on district-issued devices. It's our understanding that a student can easily turn off Safe Search, then go to any website he desires. Afterwards, he can delete the browsing history, so then the only one who will know all the sites the child visited is Google. To date, only one board member, Trustee Minetto, has voiced her concern over some of these issues. It was after the last Washoe County School District's IT dog and pony show. One more thing, Infinite Campus collects, stores, and shares more student data than anyone ever has in human history, and the district refuses to provide a list of the data collected. You can find over 1,000 of us on Facebook at Protect Nevada Children. Thank you.
James Bentham.
As Mr. Bentham is coming, Superintendent McNeil?
Yes, Mr. Epolito, as I've stated publicly before, the March 30th presentation will be going over the SharePoint matter as well, and it's my understanding that you have not rescheduled a meeting with our Chief Information Officer. So if you would please follow up with Dr. Turner from your February 9th email. Thank you very much.
Didn't really hear you.
Mr. Bentham?
Kristen, I didn't hear what you said. I don't think it matters.
Good afternoon, school board members. For the record, James M. Bentham. I'm here to talk about possible and needed changes by the school district that can be accomplished by a quality of education committee. On February 27th, 2021, Dr. Ben Carson gave an interview with Joshua Phillips. In this interview, he talks about changes in our country and what we need to do to help improve things. Dr. Ben Carson says, you know, looking at the direction of the country, I realized that it was not a possibility. We seem to be deteriorating rapidly, and when you think about how this country went from a bunch of ragtag militias to the pinnacle of the world in record time, we have to ask, how did that happen? Was that an accident? Or were there some principles that were involved? And in fact, there were 4 cornerstone principles: our faith, our Judeo-Christian values, which taught us how to relate to each other, to love your fellow man, not to try to cancel your fellow man. Our liberty, which is the reason that people came here from all over the world, because they wanted to live their own life. They didn't want somebody breathing down their neck, telling them everything they could and could not do. And you see that is in the process of changing too. In the last administration, we got away from it to a great degree by getting rid of so many regulatory barriers, and that was the real reason that economy sprung to life and did so incredibly well. It will die just as quickly if we reimpose all of that. Liberty is actually key, and also things like freedom of speech. Some people say it's only a violation of freedom of speech if the government imposes it. It's not true. If big tech and the media impose restrictions on your speech and the government is compliant, it's every bit malignant as if the government was doing it itself. The whole concept of people helping each other, and this was vital to our country as it was developing. You know that that's not America when we don't cooperate. We need diversity of opinion. We need discussion. We need to be able to look at the facts and develop policies based on that. A quality education committee would help do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bentham.
Bev Steininggem. Bev. Paul White.
Welcome, Mr. White.
Thanks. The board resolution against racism and hate demands immediate action tonight by the board. Your resolution promises that you'll tolerate no biased, racist, bigoted, hateful race behavior, and that you'll investigate it, confront it, challenge it immediately. Nice words. Why hasn't the board confronted, challenged, and investigated the complaint I made against the board president for the most racist statement ever made in a Washoe County board meeting since the school was formed? Quote, "Being white," Ms. Taylor said, "is not necessarily negative, but it certainly can be." Had any board member said that about a white board member said it about a black one, they would have been immediately kicked off the board. If the policy against racism and hate that you've invested hundreds and thousands of dollars are, and what Ms. Taylor probably wrote a lot of it, if it's going to be anything but a joke, where's the apology? Where's the apology to 25,000 students who just happen to have white skin? Do they have a greater propensity for evil? According to Ms. Taylor, yes. How about the 400,000 county residents who just happen to be white? Are they inherently horrible too, because of their skin color? For the board to not jump on this instantly, say anything, require her to apologize, you need to confront it right this evening. Add it to the agenda. You're able to do that many times. Apology, or she's no longer board president. Or throw away your resolution about how committed you are to hateful behavior towards anyone. What, unless you're white? It's not the color of their skin, King said. It's the content of their character. And if you don't act on this tonight and demand an apology, and it's 2 weeks overdue, then this is a joke, just kind of like the acoustics in this room tonight. Why those tables aren't 60 feet closer so we could hear what you're saying? There's a good reason the audience is getting a little bit larger every 2 weeks, and will continue to. Again, you've got a policy you make a big deal out of. You've got a complaint about it. You said you would investigate it, confront it, challenge it. You haven't done a thing. And if you don't, every one of you is complicit in it.
Mr. White, I will address this one myself. That comment is taken completely out of context, and so I would encourage all of you to go and listen to the meeting and see the context in which it was stated. Mr. White, JJ, please.
Gary Smith.
I can correct misinformation, which is what I did. JJ?
Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the work that you do for our community. I'm here today to talk about our results of our students, their ACT scores, and some of the proposed curriculum that is coming up, specifically also some of the mandatory systemic racism training and how that will balance with the time, energy, and money needed to raise our students' ACT scores. As you know, Washoe County schools have been producing substandard student composite ACT scores, averaging between 17 and 18.2, compared to a norm of needing 21 points for admission to most institutions. There are some exceptions to that. Minogue High School, for instance, averages 26, a much more superior score. And it's true that the ACT metric is being postponed due to COVID as entrance criteria to higher education, and in some cases even removed from the entry requirements. It has historically been an option to justify admissions for students with a core academic GPA of lower than 3.0 if they can achieve a score of 21 or higher on the ACT. I believe that we must offer our students as much opportunity and options as possible. My concern about the coming Equitable Access Task Force and the Equity and Diversity Project is how much time, energy, and money it will take away from our resources of teachers and supplies to cover our core basics, as other speakers have noted, reading, writing, arithmetic, history, and so on. I also have concerns about the whole equity idea in general. You may be aware that much of the focus is on outcome rather than opportunity equality. We've seen in some California schools, their answer was to lower requirements, lower test taking, lower attendance, lower homework performance standards in order to have an equal outcome among disadvantaged students. I look at that as an unintended consequence. It's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We need to educate our students in all aspects, including anti-racism. I support that idea, but let's not spend so much time and money on that we still produce students that can't get into college. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Bruce Parks.
Welcome, Mr. Parks.
I believe in giving credit where credit's due. I'd like to applaud the board for actually having in-person meetings as opposed to some of our other government entities around here. Thank you for that. And I'd like to be able to once again come here and tell you, great job, keep it up. Unfortunately, it's not the case. You got one person on this board that actually speaks to what his constituents want him to address, and you've effectively muzzled him. That's fiscal responsibility and the actual education of our children, which is what y'all were hired to do, and you have failed miserably. If this was corporate America, you'd all be given your pink slips and showing the door. The focus seems to be in the Washoe County schools on every social issue that comes down the tubes, not on an actual education. You're charged with the responsibility of preparing our kids for life outside of school. In that regard, you have failed dismally, and every policy that I see coming out of this body continues to perpetuate your failed ideas. There's a reason why Nevada is 49th in the nation for education, and you're a part of it. When you're talking about this social agenda that you all seem to have and are so wrapped around, it doesn't matter if Johnny can fill out a job application, at least Johnny knows that, hey, he's white, he's an oppressor. And he needs to be on guard for that. And if Johnny ain't white, then he's a victim. You know, if I want to find something to be offended about, it's pretty easy. And if I can't find something in today's society, I can just create something. And what y'all are producing is a generation of basement babies that are going to be parasites on society for the rest of their lives. They're not going to be successful members and contributing members of our society. Why? Because your focus is not on what it should be. Education. Forget the social garbage. They'll find that on their own. That's the parents' job, not yours. I refer you to the late, great Martin Luther King, who said in his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, "I look to a day when people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." That's not what you're teaching our kids. You're teaching our kids to be a victim, if it's all possible, or to feel guilty because they're an oppressor. You have failed.
Thank you, Mr. Parks.
Elizabeth Cadigan.
I'm sorry, say again.
Elizabeth Cadigan.
Welcome, Ms. Cadigan.
Thank you. Board of Trustees and Superintendent Dr. McNeil. Earlier this week, the Washoe County School District community received an email from Dr. McNeil recapping the events that have happened throughout this past year. While this recap highlighted the feats in which we have faced in attempting to make this year work in a positive manner, I personally found myself feeling a mix of exhaustion, anger, and anxiety as I read this report. There is no doubt that this past year has brought a lot of uncertainty and unknowns. And while I recognize Dr. McNeil's effort in taking time to appreciate the work our staff has done, this appreciation does little to calm the feelings I have moving forward. Prior to the pandemic, our schools and staffs have struggled to provide our students with a quality education on par with the nation's average for decades. Time and time again, we've been asked to do more with less, and our staff has obliged to do so, to do what they can for our students, often resorting to the use of their own personal resources to make up the difference. As we begin to see our first glimpse of what it will look like moving past the pandemic, it is outrageous to think that our state will be asking us yet again to be doing more with less. While I realize that many of these decisions are currently out of the hands of our board members, I am eager to know what our board is doing to show those who are making these decisions that now more than ever, our students, schools, and staff need more. Rather than simply hear the words of appreciation, I would prefer to see my district's leaders take the bold steps needed to ensure that our students receive the quality education they deserve. I would prefer to feel the relief in knowing that I don't have to worry about how cuts will impact my position and how I'm able to support my students. I would rather not have to feel responsible in being the one left to make up the difference when our state lets our students down, nor the guilt for not spending even more of my own time and resources in doing so. Last week, an Associated Press news article was published about a study that projected the amount of additional funding it would take to shift Nevada's student-to-teacher ratio to the national average. That number was $800 million per year. While this is certainly a daunting amount of money, I can only imagine what this amount is going to be and how much it's going to go up the longer we wait to do anything about it. As I have said before, we have been conditioned to think that doing more with less is something to be proud of, but in reality, it is the reason why our students have suffered, our teachers have struggled, and our state has failed to properly support our schools. Now is the time for change, and as leaders, both within our district and our community, I ask that you use your powers to lead us towards that change.
Thank you, Ms. Cadigan.
Lauren Proffitt.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lauren Proffitt, and I am a 4th grade teacher in the Washoe County School District. I am here to talk to you tonight about class size and the extreme burden that is going to be placed on teachers over the next few years. The pandemic has placed a financial burden on already overburdened systems. Educators have always been asked to do more with less, but over the past few weeks, it has become clear that next year and the years after will likely be even more of a struggle because we continue to see our legislature pull money away from education. I understand that is not no fault of the board, but I do ask, what are we going to do about this? I want to talk specifically about how the budget cuts will affect classroom teachers and students. In August, we will see the majority of students who have been distance learning this year return to in-person school. We know that many of these students have inconsistent attendance and therefore have not been learning at the rate of their in-person peers. I want to be clear, I do not fault anyone for this, and I don't place blame on parents. I respect the decision to have them have their students participate in distance learning, but I am concerned about what it's going to look like for a teacher with 30+ students in their classroom, many of whom have not authentically engaged in learning for nearly a year and a half. How are we supposed to close the gap with that many students? Shouldn't we be prioritizing smaller class sizes now more than ever? I understand this is a problem that's not easily solved, but I want to implore this board and district leaders to do everything possible to ensure class sizes do not balloon to a point where we are unable to help our students catch up and be successful. For many teachers, this year has been about what they have lost. However, I'm grateful to say that I have actually gained a lot this year. One of the positive aspects of this school year for me has been having a smaller class, and I feel like my impact has been greater on them. The students notice it too. In fact, one of my students asked me last week if our class could stay together next year. He said he loves our class just the way it is because he feels like he's learning so much every day and everyone gets along so well. While I could not agree with him more, I did explain that next year is going to look more like a typical school year, and we will have more students in our class than we do now. I work hard every day to make sure I'm providing a good education for my students. Teaching is often seen as unsustainable, but I worry that next year is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. I worry about my ability to not just teach 30+ students, but my ability to help 30+ students who need so many different things in order to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gina St. Oris.
Welcome.
Welcome. First of all, this is perfect timing because that nice, wonderful teacher back there is about to help me make my point. I want to talk to you as a long generation of, I myself am not a teacher, but my mother, my aunt, my sister, my cousins, pretty much everybody that's a female in my family have become teachers. And I was a teacher's aide from the time I can remember till the time I moved away. So I've done a lot of different responsibilities, especially the long hours my mom put in. After, she had 4 kids, and then she taught kindergarten all day. She needed help, and I helped her, and I learned a lot. Lauren makes a very good point about class sizes. My mom was constantly overwhelmed, constantly. What I think now, when I hear all this, I wonder about the whole debate about school choice and why that's such a big burden on everybody when they say that word like it's a bad thing. But if you give parents the chance to invest in their kids the way they see fit, like they do with their medical care, their housing care, nutritional care, and everything else. If you give the parents a chance to invest their education in different places, give them a chance to see if homeschooling, charter schooling, private schooling, choral education, whatever it be the right priority, then wouldn't that help downsize the parents to keep their kids in the public schools so that the teachers won't be so overburdened? That way the children and the parents can work together and find what they're really interested in, because it may not be in this setting. And it's not an offense to you guys. It's a compliment. You get to work on the other children who can finally have more of a one-on-one relationship with you. Because I gotta tell you, I'm a little scared. A few weeks ago, one of your proud graduates was telling me, oh, I just graduated high school, I did all this wonderful stuff. She was a cashier at a store. She had to use her cell phone to figure out how to make change. I knew that in the first grade, and I'm not that old. Please, think about it for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
George Lee.
George Lee. Stepped out. If he returns, we can have him. Thank you. Thank you.
Darla Lee.
Welcome, Miss Lee.
Good evening. Recently, I watched a promo video about the, how is it termed, flying the top beam at the new Proctor High. And while I appreciated the update, I would like to correct at least one thing that one of the narrators referred to a couple of times, I believe. He said that the project was an urban infill. Now, I'd like to read a definition of urban infill to you. It means the development of vacant parcels in otherwise built-up areas where public facilities such as sewer systems, roads, schools, and recreation areas are already in place. The space now occupied by the Hug High construction was definitely not a vacant parcel. It was a viable part of the Wild Creek Golf Course, a 40-year asset to the Wild Creek community, which was greatly enjoyed for not just the golf course, but for the open space it afforded in a crowded neighborhood. So for the record, this new school, otherwise known as the crown jewel of the Washoe School District, which as far as I know will cost near double what was originally advertised, for the record, is not an urban infill. Part of the narration also included the fact that the workers at the construction site were there rain or shine. Now I can attest to that because I hear the beeping from where I live every day, maybe not Sunday. And they are working hard. I applaud this. However, this is their job, and they are not volunteering their time. I assume they're being well paid. So for the narrator to go on and on about what great workers they were seemed a little over the top. The third thing of concern were the comments of many of the students on the video. And they sadly appear to equate a brand new high school with them getting better grades in school or doing better in school. If this is something that students are expecting, and I'm afraid they may be disappointed. Good grades come from good teachers, involve parents, and a willingness from the students to do the work, as well as, I might add, a decent curriculum. Otherwise, I fear we will continue to be near last in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Kathy Reyes.
Ms. Reyes. Welcome, Ms. Reyes. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the men and women in blue that protect us every night, and because of you, ladies and gentlemen, keeping us safe, I can sleep peacefully at night. And for that thin blue line, I support you. Thank you. And to the board, you've disappointed me, you've disappointed my family. I'm disappointed. I look at my ACE student, and she sees a psychiatrist, she's on medication, and when she's with her dad, when I get a notice from him, a text or a phone call, I pray that's not the news I want to hear. She was very involved and active in school. This is a virus. We play this stupid game with these stupid masks. And even if the school opens up, the kids still have to wear a stupid mask. I'm one of those people that you don't like walking in a store, not playing the game, wearing the stupid mask. I haven't been sick. I don't get my flu shot. I wash my hands. I'm very careful. I have a lot of animals. I'm a very busy, active individual. And when everybody else is dropping like flies, I'm the one taking care of them because I wash my hands, going back to the basics. And another thing going back to the basics, their education. I can't imagine, God forbid, with the fuzzy math that you people want to teach our children, or maybe implementing the 1619 project, I can't imagine when I get to be 80, 90 years old and need to go see a doctor, and they have me taking 6 tablespoons of a medication because they can't do the math. So again, let's get back to the basics. You've already disappointed me. When are the schools going to be fully open? Stop with fighting with the teachers and the union boards. I'm working from home right now, and I love it. I go from my recliner to the desk to do my job in my pajamas. I love it. I'm sure they like it too. But you know what? That doesn't benefit our kids, our future, and that's for all of us. We're creating an ugly situation here. So again, you've disappointed me, but most importantly, you've disappointed our children. You've disappointed all of our futures, because that's our future that you're not wanting to invest in. So again, stop doing what you're doing because it's not working. Start doing your job you've been elected to do. Get our kids back in school full time. Stop with the crap with these masks. It's a game, it's a virus. This mask does nothing. So wash your hands, basic, and basic fundamentals of school, reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Thank you, Ms. Reyes.
And again, you guys in blue, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reyes.
Doug Jalen.
Welcome, Mr. Jalen.
Thank you. Mr. Church is my elected representative, and as such, he is my voice on the board. Why has he and other board members been gagged on public comment? This is unacceptable. It is unacceptable today and will never be acceptable. My second comment, the school should be open for in-person learning and all other activities. By not opening, you are failing the students, and most especially the disadvantaged students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jalen. In terms of correction, no one has been gagged.
Kristen Dehaan.
Welcome, Ms. Dehaan.
Thank you. So I'm Kristen Dehaan, and I'm a teacher and a parent in the Washoe County School District. And first off, I want to say that Mr. Cottle is my board member, and I have really appreciated how available he has been anytime that I or other of his constituents write to him to ask questions, to give comment. So thank you. I feel like all of you listen pretty well, so there's not just one board member who listens to their constituents. I wanted to talk a little bit about the bell schedule that is possibly being changed in 2022, I believe is when it is. And I'm sure that you are all aware of the brain science that teenage brains really need to, they are better at learning in the later hours, and the elementary school brains are better able to learn in the early hours. And from what I could tell from the different proposed schedules, the ones that actually cost the most are the ones that pay attention to the brain science. And I was also wondering if for the neighborhood elementary schools, and I work at a neighborhood elementary school, so kids are not bused. We do have some special programs at my school, so those kids are bused, but everybody walks to school if they are zoned for our school. And I am just wondering if you can think about the fact that maybe they could set their own schedule instead of starting school at 10 o'clock, which is one of the options. A 10 to 4 day for a kindergartner, first grader, second grader is a really long day. I happen to work at a school that starts at 8:30, and even by 2:30, some of our littles are dragging by the end of the day. And I'm not quite sure what they will look like at 4 p.m. I know what my kids looked like at 4 p.m. when they were little. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows about the brain science. And I understand that it costs a lot of money, and I understand also that we have almost no money. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dehaan. Superintendent McNeil?
Yes, Ms. Dehaan. So in regards to the bell schedule, we'll be bringing a presentation to the board. There was an unfortunate miscommunication with our partners at WEA, and so we're not ready to roll that out yet. So it was great that you got that information, but it was kind of a little bit before we needed that to go out. So no worries about it. We'll get that survey out most likely within June and July, but it will be able to have a little bit more context around it. So thank you.
Thank you for correcting that information, Dr. McNeil.
Charisse Chavez.
Chavez? Ms. Chavez, welcome.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Charisse Chavez. I'm an internal medicine physician with 30 years experience working in Inglewood and South Central LA. I would like to make a comment on the teaching of critical race theory to the children. Over those 30 years, I established some very, very close relationships with the staff and with my patients, both who were 90% Black. I learned that the key to avoiding racism is to listen, to treat each other kindly and with respect. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines racism as a belief that race is a determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority or inferiority of a particular race. By definition, critical race theory is a racist ideology. I think it's dangerous and very harmful. to teach a group of kids to hate and distrust another group of kids based on their skin color is just evil in my mind. It will teach people to distrust each other, hate each other. I can tell you, just personally, it gets really tiring to be called a white supremacist all the time because of my political beliefs. And I think that the board should try to extricate their minds from political correctness and use common sense. I'd like to make a second quotation from Martin Luther King today. He said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." And I would like you to seriously consider not teaching critical race theory. I think it's a harmful and evil ideology that will harm our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chavez.
George Lee.
Mr. He has returned. Welcome, Mr. Lee.
Can you hear me? Are there any representatives of the union here? No? Why not? Because it's not just your fault that the poor proficiency ratings of the students, it's not really all your fault. I mean, you make decisions, you do things that, like, critical race theory does one thing. It drives a wedge between groups. And you know that that's not a good thing. At least I hope you do. Now, Ellen, I voted for you because you're my representative. And I'm not calling you out on anything, but I just wanted to say hi. Anyway, we built this new school. It's not done, but it's going to be done. And I was told by Pete or somebody else that the students we didn't need any extra teachers. We didn't need anything because they're just going to follow the students. The students are going to move from one place to another. But my point is, when are you ever going to make any progress? When are you ever going to get the class sizes down? You have more space than you know what to do with as soon as it opens. It means you're going to have tons of extra classrooms. How about chopping the class sizes down? And how about sticking to the important class subjects that will get people out into life and to be able to successfully, have a job. I went through a drive-through the other day, and I handed the kid the change to make it even. I added the change. I gave him an extra, whatever the bill was, and the change to make it so that they could give me back a 1. The kid was flabbergasted. They couldn't deal with it. They were like, what do I do with it? They wound up giving me extra change back. They were going to cheat themselves and come up short because they couldn't do basic math. That's not your fault directly, but it's the fact that our proficiency levels are so low that they can't compete. Now, the other thing is, the reason I asked about the unions is that the unions should fight to make the schools better. They should not fight to get more money, not fight to get more days off, not fight to get, all of the benefits. They should be fighting to demanding out of you guys to get the class proficiency, the proficiency levels up.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I'm sorry, sir. Your time is up.
I mean, they could put the squeeze on everybody.
Thank you so much for being here.
That's all I have for this item.
Thank you, JJ, and thanks for all who have come out to share your public comments with the board. We're going to move on to agenda item 4.01. It's our regular report from Miss Lindsay Anderson. Looks like she is fresh in from her business at the legislature to give us an update and direction on current and proposed legislation happening in Carson City, those things related to the Washoe County School District Legislative Platform. So we will turn it over now to Director Lindsay Anderson. Welcome and thank you for coming right in.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll try not to be out of breath here and breathe into the microphone. Lindsay Anderson, Government Affairs for the Washoe County School District. I'm here today to give you a brief legislative update on a couple of bills that I think are priorities and then talk about the budget a little bit. Let's see. So I'm going to start with Assembly Bill 57, which is the bill that the Washoe County School District sponsored, which is the pause on student learning goals. It received a vote today in the Assembly Education Committee in the affirmative, an 8-4 vote out of the Assembly Education Committee. So it will be heading to the Assembly floor to have a minor amendment adopted to accommodate Clark County School District program around SLOs. So that will be adopted and then it will go to a vote on the Assembly floor. I don't know when that will happen, probably within a week or so. But that was good news out of the committee today. So the bill is alive and moving, and that is my favorite thing to report to the Board of Trustees, especially on your own bill. I wanted to just quickly mention, since the last time that we met and spoke together around new legislation that was introduced that will be important. We've already circulated some information to you about Senate Bill 173, which is a bill that was introduced regarding a framework for summer school programs as it relates to the federal funding that's going to be provided to the district through the 3 stimulus packages that we've seen coming our way. This legislation includes the requirement that we offer summer school at all levels for our students, pre-K through 12, that we provide transportation, food service, a virtual and an in-person option for families. And I think the biggest difference from what we maybe have already considered here is around paying the staff members who participate in summer school their contract rate of pay. That would be different than what's in our negotiated agreement around summer school compensation. This would be their contract rate of pay during the regular school year. And then also a requirement to report back to the State Department of Ed on some results around what was achieved during summer school, attendance, participation, those types of things. I'm anticipating this bill coming up for a hearing sometime next week, middle of next week. And this is something that, as it stands right now, districts would opt into. The word that's been used is we are invited to participate in this legislation. So we like to say it says may, not shall, as it stands right now. Whether or not that stands, I couldn't tell you. There may ultimately become a requirement to participate. But that's certainly something that plays into decisions that this board is considering right now about options for summer school as we move forward. So I don't know, Dr. McNeil, do you want to add something? Or I know that was a priority bill.
No, thank you very much, Lindsay. We are putting together our own plans for summer school, very robust summer school program. Our teacher and leader committee is working on those plans right now. So I feel really positive around where we're going to be going for our elementary, middle, and high schools. And so I think it's just really important to make sure that we communicate what those plans are going to be as we move forward to make sure that our students have additional instructional support during the summer. And we also know that our schools are working very hard putting some of those plans together now. As we know that the the current legislation around ESSERS 3, CARES Act 3 funding just passed, and so we're looking forward to receiving more information around that as well.
Right, and I would just add that one of the things we've been communicating to the bill sponsors is the importance of making sure that districts are not put in a position to run summer school programs differently through different sources of funding. That becomes an administrative hassle when a certain set of funding has these requirements and a certain set of funding has a separate set of requirements. We really want to try to make it as seamless as possible for the district for those summer school programs that are being developed right now, regardless of the source of funding. I'll move on quickly to Senate Bill 142. I can't remember if we talked about this the last time or not. It was introduced on the day of the last board meeting, so I'm going to mention it again in case I didn't last time. But this is a bill that would make changes to the Senate Bill 543 from last session, the funding formula change that was obviously a major piece of legislation. This bill would only undo a small part of that piece of legislation, but it's a big impact for us, and that would be protecting a portion of our ending fund balance from collective bargaining. So other local governments, for example, have, our legal counsel will correct me, I can't remember if it's 16 or 25 right now, but local governments have a proportion of their ending fund balance that's protected from collective bargaining to be able to manage economic fluctuations. And school districts have not had that before. It's often been said that because we have a guaranteed part of our funding from the state through the Nevada plan, that it wasn't necessary to protect us from those fluctuations. But we know that moving into the new funding formula, we are not going to have that guarantee anymore. So removing all protection from the ending fund balance from collective bargaining makes us very vulnerable to economic fluctuations. So that's a bill that we're going to be watching very closely to preserve the district's ability to protect some of that ending fund balance, a reasonable portion, so we can, when we experience economic change, we can manage it. We're not spending every single dollar we have. And then I'll quickly say Senate Bill 141, in fact, has a hearing tomorrow morning. And this is a bill that would extend the construction manager at risk option for us in building schools in perpetuity. Right now, the CMAR process is set to expire at the end of this legislative year, June 30th, and this bill would extend that option in perpetuity, and that's something we are in strong support of because we've used the CMAR process in many of our projects very successfully going forward, so that's a good one. And then Senate Bill 172 is a bill that had a hearing yesterday, and this is a pretty wholesale change to the way we do dual credit for students. Right now we have some very robust memorandums of understanding with our local higher education institutions that offer dual credit. And this bill right now, basically, the intent is good in removing barriers for students and districts in participating in dual credit across the state, not just at a regional level, but it completely does away with the memorandum of understanding infrastructure. And so we're currently working with the bill sponsors and higher education to make sure we understand what the implications of that change would be going forward. Certainly we want to remove dual credit barriers for students, but we want to make sure we have the plans and infrastructure in place to be able to support that going forward. All right, Assembly Bill 194 and 195. Both of these bills are sponsored by Assemblywoman Selena Torres, and she was nice enough to be working with us on these pieces of legislation in concept form before the legislative session even started. So our staff has been providing feedback on some of her ideas for quite some time now. Senate Bill Assembly Bill 194 deals with suspension and expulsion appeals process. So what she's really getting at here is long-term suspensions and allowing for families to be able to appeal those long-term suspensions and developing a standardized process throughout the state. She found that different districts, some don't have an appeals process, some have a complicated one, some have a good one. And so it's about making sure that families have an understanding of what the appeals process is, particularly for long-term suspensions and expulsions. We're continuing to work with her Most of our suspensions are short-term, and so some of the logistics are a little clunky right now in terms of that appeals process being the same length of time as most of our suspensions, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But she's been nothing but willing to work with us to deal with those situations. It would require the board to adopt a policy around suspension and expulsions appeals process. Assembly Bill 195 is the English Learner Bill of Rights. That's her title, not mine. But the idea is to consolidate information around English language learners and what they have access to into one area of the Nevada revised statutes. So a lot of the reporting and requirements that are in this bill are other places in Nevada law right now. A lot of the reporting are things that we have access to and that we do already, but this really puts it into one particular location within statutes to try to make it easier for families to access what their rights are. Again, I think she's been working with us. We have expressed some concern about some of the requirements, but ultimately I think we'll be able to get to a place where it's something we can incorporate into our existing infrastructure. I always get excited to talk about bills because it's kind of the most exciting thing that's happening, but I don't want to leave out the fact that we've had a lot of time and energy spent on the budget process. We know how important the budget building process is on our legislative agenda. Just this morning there was a budget hearing particularly interesting around pre-K, and so Dr. McNeil spends a lot of time and I spend a lot of time making sure that issues around the funding formula and the budget and the sufficiency are being addressed by our legislative leaders. And so that process is ongoing. We know it's slow and steady up until the very last moment, but a lot of work is being done to build those foundations in meetings with legislators around the budget, the funding formula, and our needs here at the Washoe County School District. So, Madam President, I'll leave it at that and happy to answer questions as the board sees fit.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. I see Trustee Church. Is that, your mic is up.
Yes, please.
Yeah, you don't have to put it up. I can see the light. So you don't have to put your mic up. I can see your light. But go right ahead, sir.
Thank you. Number one, the acoustics are terrible here, and I'm trying to catch everything you say. I just want to make a few comments. Number one, I 100% support any bill that would support summer school so we can get the kids back, get them socialized and educated for the year that they lost. So I'm 100% behind that. Number two, I'm told that SJR 8 passed today. That would devastate civil rights. It takes religion out of civil rights, which I'm 100% opposed to. And I realize that consistent with our proclamation or resolution for legislature, that we can't weigh in on every single bill that comes up, and you have to, rely upon the superintendent. So I just want to go on the record that I am 100% opposed to SJR 8 should that come up. That's my own opinion, not representing the board. But if they do press it forward, I urge that the word religion be placed back in there, but I'm still opposed to it. And then I want to just go on record. Again, I'm new to this. When we passed our resolution and when I read the agenda for today, it talks about academic success and equity for all students. Another mea culpa. I read that quick and I thought equity means equality, and I'm 100% wrong. I read those now as an opposite, and we had some people speak on that. There's a really good definition. It's very, very short that I found on the internet. Equality means each individual or group is given the same resources or opportunities. In other words, Civil Rights Act of 1968. Equity recognizes that each person has different circumstances and allocates the exact resources and opportunities they need to reach equal outcome. So in other words, that puts us as a board or somebody in the bureaucracy in charge of determining who's marginalized and who's not, and I find that unacceptable. So from my position, I just want to put that all on the record, and thank you very much.
Dr. Nicolette? Thank you, Trustee Church.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. There was a hearing today, I believe, on AB 88, and maybe it's too early to ask this question, but as I read it, I wonder how culturally incompetent is defined when it comes to logos and songs and those kinds of things. Do you have a sense of what culturally incompetent is meaning?
Thank you, Trustee Nicolette. There was a hearing on AB 88 today. There were some conceptual amendments offered to the bill also, so they haven't been drafted yet. It's a little hard to respond to them and we don't know exactly what the words are going to be. But it does it's a little more permissive, I think, than what the original language in the bill is. In meeting with the bill sponsor, it's important to him to make sure that school districts have a process by which the community members can approach the Board of Trustees and express an opinion about a school name, logo, or mascot, and the board would be able to, hearing isn't the right word probably, but hear those concerns and then potentially make a decision. And I think with our existing infrastructure around school naming, I know you're doing some logos and naming and mascots today. I think our infrastructure that's in place would very easily accomplish the process by which people could come forward and express some concerns about potentially an existing school name or a future school name. So I think we would be in compliance with that law should it be passed right now. But if his intent is to allow boards of trustees to be the determinant on what is culturally competent or what is a racially discriminatory past. So I don't think there is a plan to define it specifically in statute, but leaving that to local boards to determine whether or not something is or isn't.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nicolette. Oh, we do see a public comment. Thank you.
James Bentham.
Good evening.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening, board members. I totally support promotion of academic success, but I question equity for all students. Dr. Ben Carson gave an interview at CPAC. On page 5, he does talk about equality and equity. But I will start out with the first paragraph. Dr. Ben Carson speaking. Well, all you have to do is look at the last 4 years and you look at the policies that really did change things for people, that put money in people's pockets, that saw the lowest unemployment rates ever in the Black community and the Hispanic community and the Asian community, record lows for unemployment and women. You know, those kinds of things make a difference in people's lives. You can sit around with rhetoric all day long and talk about unity and how wonderful you are. But if you don't have the results, it becomes empty clattering, and that's what has gone on for decades before the last 4 years. And it's good that we can juxtapose the last 4 years against what's happening now and what will happen in the next few years. I think it will be so clear to people that needs to happen. Joshua. Well, now, when it comes to equality, there's a new narrative with this. It's equity, not equality. It has taken a step further. What does this really mean? Dr. Carson. Well, equality obviously is something that we all can identify. We want everybody to be treated equally. Equity, it looks more like everybody should have the same outcome. That is not what made America great. You know, you work hard, you achieve a lot. That accrues to you. It accrues to your community. You're a sluggard. You do nothing. That accrues to you, and that accrues to your community. We don't guarantee equity of outcome, and it started sort of with everybody gets a trophy. Everybody has not done the same thing, and incentivizing people is a really good thing. The human brain is an amazing organ. You have the ability to do almost anything you can imagine, but you have to put some work behind it. It just doesn't happen spontaneously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have other public comment, JJ?
Yes. Dodie Hanson.
Is it Hanson?
Hanson.
Hanson, Miss Hanson? Welcome, Miss Hanson.
Hello there. First of all, I think the meeting should be opened up with the Pledge of Allegiance before anything gets going. Not what we can do and we can't do. It should be the Pledge of Allegiance and show our patriotic to the schools in our country. The second thing is, I'm a senior citizen, I'm a widow, and I actually retired from the school district 20 years. I was proud to retire from the school district. I'm glad I'm not doing it now, because there's nothing to be proud about with the school district now. Budget. Why you guys keep begging, trying to get more money through the middle class people and the seniors? You're always asking for more bills, more money. Why don't you work within your own budget? We have to work with our own budget. The whole public has to work with their own budget. They have to pull in their strings. I've seen what goes on with the school district. There are many ways that the school district can be cut. Just come and ask me. I'll be glad to share my opinion.
I'm going to interrupt you just a moment. JJ, pause that if you would. Just as a reminder, I'm sorry, based upon state directives, I'm going to have to ask you to keep your mask on while you speak. I know it's uncomfortable. We have to do the same thing, but if you would do that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, and the fourth is, why are the schools being built with so much money put into them? It's just a school, a place for children to learn. It doesn't have to be the big high-rise or like the Atlantic City, where you have to pay other people to come in and clean the windows because they're too damn high. And you got second-story floors where the custodians can hardly keep up with it. And where could you show where the money has went for the last year with this COVID, so-called COVID? Where has the school district's money went if you're not teaching the children? I'm done.
Thank you very much. And what I will just also do, I didn't do this, I neglected to do this at the beginning of the meeting. I do want to remind everyone, we are still bound by the governor's directives and must wear our masks correctly, covering both our nose and our mouth throughout the meeting. Thank you very much. More public comment, JJ?
One more. Bruce Foster.
Welcome, Mr. Foster.
Dr. Taylor, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. In our own way of accelerating rates of crimes and violence, drug abuse, addictions, billion-dollar pornography sales, hedonistic sexual aberrations, wokeism, cancel culture, high divorce rates, and deteriorating family life, the American people might well recall the words of warning of Daniel Webster, which he spoke to the New York Historical Society on February 22nd, 1852. Unborn ages and visions of glory crowd upon my soul, the realization of all which, however, is in the hands and good pleasure of Almighty God. But under his divine blessing, it will be dependent on the character and virtues of ourselves and our posterity. If we and they shall live always in the fear of God and shall respect his commandments, we may have the highest hopes of the future fortunes of our country. It will have no decline and fall. It will go on prospering. But if we and our posterity reject religious instruction and authority, violate the rules of eternal justice, trifle with the injunctions of morality, recklessly destroy the political constitution which holds us all together, no man can tell how sudden a catastrophe may overwhelm us. That shall bury all our glory in profound obscurity. Should that catastrophe happen, let it have no history. Let the horrible narrative never be written. Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you that we are at a crossroads in our educational governmental system. The question is, what path, as overseers of Washoe County School District, are you to take? Will it be continued path of manipulating and conditioning of the Washoe County School District youth to hold the values and beliefs that the education establishment want to instill, or to focus on the blessings of our American privilege, which encompasses our individual liberty as directed by the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and in support of our nuclear family, religious liberty, and other key values that underpin the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Foster.
That's all I have for this item.
Thank you, JJ. Seeing no other comments, we'll just thank you, Ms. Anderson, for being here, and thank you for your work in Carson and related to Carson. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item. This is our first presentation. Agenda item 5.01. Presentation to introduce the new logos for Proctor R. Hug High School and William O'Brien Middle School, and the new mascots, colors, and logo for the new Michael Inskip Elementary School. This is for our information and for presentation. Before us, I'll just turn it over to you, Ms. Downs, our interim Chief Communications and Community Engagement Officer, and I know you have guests.
Yes, we do. Thank you, President Taylor, Trustees, Superintendent McNeil. We're here for a great reason today. During the last few years, the Office of Communications has had the privilege of helping to unveil the mascots and branding identity for our new schools. This year is slightly different. We get to share with you the logo of one new school, Michael Inskip Elementary, and two of our existing long-storied schools, Proctor Hug High School and O'Brien STEM Academy. Our esteemed graphic designer, Melissa Gillis, is some here where behind me. She had the pleasure of working with our school principals to ensure that their vision became a reality. They will each get the distinct opportunity to share their new logo and how the design ties into their school culture and climate. Here with me today, we have Dr. Sue Egloff, principal of Michael Inskip Elementary. We have our area superintendent, Jen Van Tress, who's filling in today for Principal Melinda Baker. And then we have Principal Christina Oronos of our Proctor Hug High School, where we are here today. So Dr. Egloff is going to take it away, talk about her logo.
Thank you. Hello, President Dr. Taylor and Superintendent Dr. McNeil, Board of Trustees. I am honored to be here to share with you our mascot process. In opening a new school, there's a lot of things to consider and a whole new community to get to learn and grow from. And so I created a parent advisory council comprised of community members and future parents at Inskip, and we surveyed the community to receive or gather, I guess, mascot and color choices. We received a lot of input, and we were able to narrow those choices down to 4 different mascots. We surveyed the community again, and we received over 900 responses. Really pretty invested with our students, parents, and community members in the Cold Springs area. And so I'm very happy to reveal and to announce that we are the Michael Inskeep Elementary Eagles. And here's our logo. There is some significance with our logo that I would like to share real quick. The purple background, since we are the Eagles, we are patriotic, and so purple is a blend of red and blue for patriotic colors. We also have the mountains in the background of our mascot, of our logo, to represent Freedom Hill in Cold Springs, as well as the greater mountains in the Reno area. And we have our colors, the golden color, to represent the nickname of our namesake. His nickname was Golden Bears, and so we wanted to find a way to incorporate his namesake and his legacy into our logo and our colors. So we also really liked how Melissa was able to incorporate the talons holding eagles. We thought that was really representation of our stakeholders working together to support all of our students to help them soar. Thank you.
I was like, is it day still? Good evening, Superintendent McNeil, President Taylor, members of the board. I am here to represent O'Brien Middle School and their new logo. O'Brien, as you know, is opening a new building for the next school year. So as part of that, they had the opportunity to look and rebrand for the O'Brien logo. O'Brien School leadership reached out to the community and received a lot of community feedback. Remember, O'Brien has been open long enough to have 5 generations of students go through their building. So they were really able to get a lot of community feedback. Overwhelmingly, the community asked for their mascot, which is the lion, to be part of their logo. So I am proud to present the O'Brien logos. As you can see, we have the lion in the middle with the blue and the green colors. This logo was obviously created with Megan Gillis, but it was developed really by the school leadership. The school leadership team had a lot of input into which design they chose, and as you can see, the lion is very majestic. It's very representative of strength. And so when you think about O'Brien and their 3 words that represent the students, which are hope, growth, and strength. And the strength is really represented in the lion. So I'm proud to present this on behalf of the O'Brien Middle School, O'Brien STEM Middle School. And thank you.
Good afternoon, President Taylor, trustees, Superintendent McNeil, Christina Oronoz, principal at Hug High School. So as you know, we are keeping our name and we are keeping our mascot. So we are home of the Hawks and will continue to be home of the Hawks. We're very proud of that. We met with a committee and we wanted to get their input on our new Hug logo. So I will present it and then I will share a little bit of information. So this is our new logo, strong hawk. So we had throughout the years at Hug High School, there's at least about 20 logos that have been around. You can see some of them here, one behind you, one in the back, one up there. And so we met as a committee and we looked at all these 20 logos and put Post-its, had a discussion, what do we like about them, what don't we like about them? What do we want our new logo to look like? It was very, very evident that it was important for us to continue with the traditions and the history of current Hug High School. So maintaining that in our new logo. So keeping it a Hug, ensuring that we continue to have the complete name, Proctor R. Hug, and the established 1968. So after the discussions, we know that that was important. So then Melissa, who is amazing,
developed 15 new logos for us because we were a little picky. And so we met again and had further discussions. What do we like about them? We narrowed it down to 3 logos, which we then pushed out to the community, students, staff, families to vote. So this was the logo that was voted on. Continue to have the hawk facing forward to a new beginning, while maintaining the history and the traditions which are important to the Hug community. So, thank you. And before I forget, if you open your gift bags, there is a little gift, which is, and for the student representative, we have a special one for you since we know you're a current junior. And I hope that you can wear your new mask, starting now.
And so, oh, didn't mean to cut you off. Was just going to say we also have one more parting gift for you, and that is the logos that you can take home and frame if you like, and we're going to give one to each trustee.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Awesome.
Ooh, awesome. Ooh, ooh.
And I think that's it for us, unless the trustees had any questions or comments.
We'll look and see questions, comments. Trustee Thigpen?
Thank you, Madam President. Can you hear me? We good? Okay. We're having problems earlier. Just as a creative, I just wanted to say this is really, really well done work. I don't want to say which one's my favorite, but I'll tell you in private later. But this is very, very impressive. So thanks to everybody that's involved. As somebody that professionally does this type of creative work, I know how long it can go on for. So great job to the entire team.
Thank you, Trustee Thigpen. Trustee Milano?
I would just like to say my children went to Hug and O'Brien, and so they're going to be thrilled to see these as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Clerk Manetto. I see Vice President Call.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you all for the presentation. This is really exciting, and having O'Brien and Inskeep in my zone and hearing the excitement of those communities is awesome, and really the excitement all around for Hug and what that high school is going to bring. And this really caps off our first round of building after 2022 when O'Brien and Hug open and they remodel at Swope. It's that first round, and so this is really kind of capping off the celebration of what WC1 has brought, and we're very grateful to the community, and these schools will benefit so many students. So thank you all for your work.
Thank you, Vice President Caldwell. Trustee Church?
Just thank you very much. Good job. I can't wear this because of my hearing aids, but I'm going to try and figure out a way to do that. It's excellent, and the hawk did lay an egg. I'm sure it will be delicious, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Church. I really just want to say, first of all, job well done. These are amazing logos. I don't think I have to tell you which one's my favorite. I'm just a little, yeah. The favorite is the one who has my name on the wall in the gym, exactly. But they're all actually really amazing work. And one of the cool things about it is even when from the very beginning, when Dr. Egoloff was speaking all the way down to Principal Christina, it's the excitement from you and your communities, getting them involved and making the decision, whether it's the team, the staff, the students. I mean, all of that just becomes more and more momentum as you open a brand new school, right? And as you open a brand new building, right, for Principal Baker, it just continues the momentum and the excitement, and really it helps to create a great foundation to build upon as you go forward. So as Vice President Carlos said, really huge appreciation to the community for seeing the kind of excitement, the kind of thing that can happen. I do think that great places to learn make a difference. In fact, research backs that up. When you have a great place to learn, it does show up in academic outcomes. So it does matter. It absolutely does matter. And I'm just excited about the work that you've already done to get to where we are, and then the work that's going forward. So thank you very much, all of you. Superintendent McNeil?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you all for coming, and thank you, Area Superintendent Van Trest, for doing the stand-in today. Super excited, and I'm just waiting to get autographs on all of these. I think that's going to be awesome. And I also wanted to thank Melissa. I know she just loves presenting in front of the board, and so I wasn't going to call her back up here, but she is just dynamite in what she does, and so I really appreciate all of the help and support that she was able to give all of you. So thank you.
Great job. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you. Great job, Melissa. And thanks for helping to just get the momentum, continue the momentum. I think these school communities will be very excited. Should be very excited. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Let's see what's next. We'll go to agenda item 5.02. You know, it's 6 o'clock. Should we break here? Why don't we take a break? We've been in, although we had a bit of a recess, we've been in for 2 hours. That's usually when we pause. So we will take a break here on the board. Let's take a 20-minute break. So 6:20, according to this laptop right here, we'll be back here at 6:20 to continue our meeting. So we are in recess right now. Thank you very much. And to our AV team, I will say thank you for working out the challenges. Things sound a lot better. We certainly want people to be able to hear. So thank you for all that hard work. We're in recess. We're going to go ahead and continue our meeting. Thank you for allowing a little extra media interview time. I appreciate that. We're going to jump right into agenda item 5.02. I'm going to ask all of you, if you would, please go ahead and take your seats as we begin. Agenda item 5.02. This is discussion and possible action to provide direction on diploma distribution plans for the class of 2021, and I'm turning it over to our superintendent, Dr. Christian McNeil, and she will introduce those who will work with her on this presentation. Dr. McNeil?
Thank you very much, President Taylor. As our guests of honor take their places. So we are very excited about this presentation today regarding our diploma distribution plans. And with us today, we have Area Superintendent Gina Curtis. We have the Academy of Arts, Careers, and Technology Principal, Tiffany McMaster. We have McQueen High School, Amy Maribel, Principal. We have Lauren Ford, Area 4 Superintendent. And we have Area 1 Superintendent Anne Marie Dixon. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Anne Marie Dixon.
All right. Good evening, Superintendent McNeil, President Taylor, members of the board. We're here to talk about a very exciting topic, celebrating the class of 2021. As we're thinking about what we'd like to make sure that we have in place, our number one priority is going to be health and safety. So we're going to make sure we're following those governor's guidelines, social distancing, those types of things. Our high schools have been gathering input from stakeholders, including students, parents, and staff, in order to gather input as we develop a program that's going to recognize our seniors' achievements. With the challenges and concerns, I think we're on slide 4, please. Thank you. We are going to make sure that we're following Governor Sisolak's directives. We also are going to make sure that it is equitable for all of our students, following those social distance requirements, being mindful of traffic and safety as we are inviting families onto our campuses, and then being mindful of time constraints. We do have 18 diploma distribution sites, so we want to make sure that we're able to offer support to all of those sites. And from there, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Trevino and Project Manager Banji Russell.
Superintendent McNeil, President Taylor, members of the Board of Trustees. For the record, Banji Russell, Project Manager. A little louder, okay. It's not what my kids say. So I'm going to speak a little bit about our individual diploma distribution plans, which will be created by each high school. These plans will be unique to those school communities. They will involve students, parents, and staff. They will work together to design the current plan, which is a caravan diploma distribution. We will work with those schools to help build their plans. The custom plans will be created while remaining compliant with Governor Sisolak's current directives. Each current plan is loosely designed to allow the schools to adapt quickly to upgrades and capacity changes and shifts based on the governor's directives.
Good evening, Superintendent McNeil and members of the board. The district support for this event, or these events, will include tents and staging that will be provided to the sites, traffic plans that will be developed in collaboration with the administration at each high school, and then the site safety and hygiene needs will be addressed on a site-by-site basis. And then in addition to that, financial support, once the hard costs have been established, will be provided for each school. So one of the concerns that we have with these types of diploma distribution, obviously, is the safety of everyone involved, and having them large amount of motor vehicles that will be coming through our high school parking lots is going to take some coordination and to make sure that we can safely do that and get everyone through there. So we'll be working with the individual schools to approve those safety plans, along with our emergency management department.
At this time, we'd like for our principals to share for you some experiences from last school year and upcoming experiences.
Good evening, Superintendent McNeil, President Taylor, and members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to share some of the experiences we've had with diploma distribution at our sites. Principal Marable has a very different site than mine in that McQueen High School is much larger with about 400 graduates. Mine's a little bit smaller with around 135 graduates. So we thought that telling you a story of our experience from last year would give you an overview of the different types of events that occurred throughout our district. I think it's really important to start by saying that gathering input from our stakeholders was an essential part of coming up with our plans because all of our schools are different. We have different traditions, different cultures, and we want to make sure that when we come up with these plans that we're honoring all of that. None of our students signed up for being graduates in the middle of a pandemic. And this was a very, very hard time of the year last year for our seniors when we ended up in a lockdown situation. And I don't know that our seniors are feeling much different now because this has not been a standard senior year. So we really want to do anything and everything we can to recognize and celebrate our seniors. Students really want to have a time where they can celebrate, where they can be made to feel special and recognized, whereas when we look at some parent input, there are other things that parents value, like that ceremonial significance, the cap and gown, crossing the stage, wanting to have a photo of their graduate. So when we gather input, we make sure that we're valuing all of those perspectives in our plan. So at my school, AACT, last year, we decided in the end to just completely transform our parking lot. When parents and graduates entered the parking lot, it was like nothing they'd ever seen before. In our school, our staff decided to dress formal and make it a celebratory event. As they entered the parking lot, they were handed a graduation program, just like if they were to enter any traditional graduation. And as they were in their car, it gave them time to look through that program. We had stations along the way. We started with a car decorating station. Many of our families decorated their cars, and that was actually one of the very special parts of this event. I know I didn't even think about what an impact that would have on the graduation process, but seeing cars drive by with pictures of students from their kindergarten graduation and their senior graduation posted on the side of the car. Seeing cars with first-generation graduate posted across the car, it really made you feel like you were part of this family experience in such a personal way. We added to those decorations by putting the names of the graduates on the car. We added some magnets to say you did it, you're a graduate. As they continued through the distribution line, they were given cords, tassels, certificates, and awards that we would not normally have as part of the graduation process. We offered gifts to our students. We had bullhorn stations as they started to approach the stage where we were announcing their names. They went into a staff cheer arena where everyone was calling out their name, individually recognizing students name by name. They were telling stories and sharing with families. And as they approached the stage, students got out of the car. They were able to come up to the stage, walk the stage. Families got to take pictures right there in front of the stage with their graduate crossing. We played pomp and circumstance. We had a PA announcement of their name, and we had a professional photographer there to take their picture so that we could give that as a gift to the family afterwards. My school has a tradition of putting handprints on the wall when the students approach graduation, and we were unable to enter the building to do that, but we came up with a creative alternative last year where we had a big canvas outside, and as they left the stage, they put their handprint on the canvas, and we mounted the canvas inside the building. And then we had a big family photo area as they were leaving and confetti. So we really made it a very special event, and I think that having families be able to bring their culture and their experience with the car decorations and having them be so personally connected to the event made it really unique and special.
Good evening. Tiffany said it very well. Even though our schools are very different, there were a lot of similarities in what we did to celebrate our seniors last year, and we'll continue to do so this year. With McQueen, we started out the process, like many of the schools, getting as much input as we could. We started with our senior leadership, extended out to our whole senior class, and then had a committee of parents who really wanted to be involved with the process. That committee of parents broke into subgroups to help us with all of those fine little details that Tiffany is talking about. So when you drove up to McQueen High School, up on our hill were yard signs for every senior, celebrating them as a graduate. As they came around the parking lot, there were decorative buckets, and these buckets were made by the parents, and they were very creative and fun and celebratory, and that guided them through the parking lot. Then you saw pictures on the fence of every graduate at McQueen High School. There were canvases, decorations as they drove around, and then you heard pomp and circumstance, and they knew, this is my moment. They came around and all of our staff and teachers were there to cheer them on. They were talking to the families as they were waiting for their turn across the stage, and it gave them that moment of saying goodbye, that closure that they really needed, because it was so sudden when we left for spring break. And the teachers really appreciated having that time with the kids and the families. So then there was the big balloon arch, and they knew that this is it. I'm going to get out of the car, I'm going to receive my diploma cover, and I'm going to cross the stage. Parents were able to take pictures, their name was announced, our librarian announced every single student's name. And then there was an additional picture area for families to take pictures. We had many of the same types of stations throughout that they were picking up all of their goodies